And we are back. Boxing with Mannix and Mora. I'm Chris Mannix. He is the former junior middleweight champion, Sergio Mora. On this episode, we're going to discuss another excellent fight between William Zapeda and Tevin Farmer, an even better rematch between Mikaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan. Brian Norman, he moves one step closer to a title unification fight, and Deontay Wilder is officially back, but can he get back into heavyweight title contention? Sergio, you were in Cancun for Zapeda against Farmer. I was in Vegas for Mayer against Ryan. We are both back in Los Angeles. How was your trip?
I could tell you that era un gran éxito. Cancún era precioso. Estaba lindo allá, Chris Mannix. Basically, it was a beautiful place. The food, the people, the weather, it was all great. And I mean, the Mexicans love their boxing. I never had been to Cancun before, and they love their boxing. They're very passionate. The promoter is he rolls out the red carpet nicely. It was a great show.
Yeah, although your social media is quite the wild ride when you're out there on these trips. Like the one video I saw on Saturday, like, you were like tackling Razzo from Golden Boy
Oh
in
man,
the
I feel
ocean.
bad for Javier. Yeah, Javier Razzo, Golden Boy's matchmaker. I tackled him pretty hard. He lost his glasses in the ocean,
He
and he
lost
couldn't
his
see.
glasses in
He
the
couldn't
ocean.
see, man. And I felt really bad for 2 days. He was blind, and luckily, luckily he got a new pair. A Mexican optometrist somewhere in Cancun and got a new pair. But I owe him $400 for a new pair of glasses, so I'm sorry, Razzo.
Oh, that's even better than I thought it was going to be. He lost his glasses in the ocean. Amazing. Amazing. Two days
Uh,
walking around Cancun blind. It's all your fault.
No, man, it was a all inclusive place. It was a great. They took really good care of us, and I could see why they keep going back and having shows there, and yeah, it's great. Can't wait to go back.
All right, let's talk about the main event of that show. William Zapeda against Tevin Farmer, part two. 4 months after a close decision win by Zapeda, he and Farmer, they ran it back. 12 rounds this time. And early on, Sergio, it looked like it might turn into a blowout. Zapeda had Farmer hurt in the second and fifth rounds.
Mhm.
Farmer had what looked like a hand injury that was clearly bothering him, but he stayed in it. He won some rounds. He finished the fight. Still lost by majority decision. Typical Zapeda numbers in this fight: 900 plus punches, more than 300 more than Tevin Farmer. Good accuracy, good work to the body. Your thoughts on Zepeda's win?
Well, no, well, first of all, I got to give credit to Tevin Farmer. I got to give him his flowers, man. I just think he comes up short. I mean, you can go back to the Murataya fight. I think it was a damn good fight against a puncher. Then you can go to the first fight with Tevin Farmer, where a lot of people thought he could have pulled off that fight. He got the knockdown against Cepeda. He just has tough luck, man. He comes up short, and for a guy that started late in his career, he started 18, 19 years old. He got knocked out in his pro debut to do exactly what he did and go and win a world championship, lose that world title, and still be, you know, facing these undefeated power punchers and giving them all they could handle at 34 years old. We have to give this man his credit. Tevin Farmer is a legitimate former champion and he's a legitimate top contender. I mean, I just think his stock went up even in this loss. But I feel for him, man. I feel for him and his wife. They were there, and I saw the entire thing, and you could tell how disappointed he was. To the point where he was emotional. For both of them, it wasn't anger; it was emotional. Because this was the most confident I've ever seen Tevin Farmer, and we've called a handful of his fights. He said he was going to knock out William Zapeda in the fighter meetings. He told us how he was going to do it. He told us why he was going to do it, and he made a lot of sense. He made a lot of sense. He says, "I'm the naturally bigger guy. I'm the stronger guy, and that's the reason I could take his punches. His volume is dumb volume. It's not serious. My punches are accurate. I'm growing into my power. I've been knocking down opponents. I've stopped a guy early." It sounded like bluster, but he did everything that he said he was going to do. Just the judges didn't sway in his favor. And I think the judges got it right, Mannix. I don't think Farmer won this fight. I think at best it could have been a draw. Now, if they counted that knockdown in the 12th round, which should have been a knockdown, then we have a different story. So just bad luck on his end.
So let's just clarify this. You're talking about the 12th round in Zapeda Farmer, where Farmer landed a shot, and I couldn't tell watching on TV if that was a punch that put Zapeda down. It was like a combination of like a forearm kind of clubbing shot and Zepeda kind of looking exhausted and going down at the end. You thought that should have been called a knockdown.
Yes, I should have, because he got hit with the uppercut before that, and you could see that Zepeda was already. I mean, Farmer was getting these second wins just when you thought that he was against the ropes, getting beat up by the volume and the pressure and the power of Zepeda. He would come and he rocked him with an uppercut. That right before that knocked him, he rocked him with an uppercut. And yes, I agree with you. It was kind of like a cuffing type punch, but the referee doesn't have the luxury of slow motion. So he should have called that a knockdown. And we have the luxury of slow motion after we saw it, two or three times. But when it happened, it was a knockdown. And I think this is the bad luck that we keep talking about Tevin Farmer, because that would have changed the decision. That would have changed everything in his favor. And we would have had to see a trilogy in this fight. I still want to see a third fight, but I wanted to see a third fight with one fighter, one win apiece. And Tevin Farmer's bad luck, just, it wasn't the case.
Yeah, my takeaway from this fight is that while William Zapeda still remains a top guy at 135, I think Tevin Farmer over the last couple of fights has exposed some things in him. He is vulnerable to uppercuts. We saw Tevin land a lot of them in this last fight, including in that final round. He is vulnerable to counter shots. Tevin is still a very good fighter, but at 34 years old, he'd probably be the first to tell you he's not in the prime of his career. He's not what he was a few years ago. When I've watched these two Tevin Farmer, William Zapeda fights, it's got me wondering, what is Zapeda going to look like when he's facing a guy that is younger, stronger, maybe with a sharper set of tools than Tevin Farmer has? And the natural guy I'm thinking about is Shakur Stevenson, right? Like Shakur Stevenson is the presumed next fight for William Zapeda. And while it's not a apples to apples comparison with Tevin Farmer and Shakur Stevenson, they are both, slick-ish southpaws who have a pretty good defensive style. I watched those fights, Sergio, and I think that, hey, Shakur's going to have a lot of success against William Zapeda because his counters are going to be sharper. His power, assuming his hands are right, is going to be better. He's going to be much more defensively responsible. I thought there were times in that fight against Zapeda, both fights really, that Tevin looked like he ran out of gas. Like he was running out of gas like in the first half of this fight. The last fight, it was the second half of it. So I just think like Zapeda looked like a buzzsaw in the fights we saw with Maxie Hughes and Jojo Diaz and Mercito Hesta. I think Tevin has shown that he's human in these fights. And that to me makes things a little bit more interesting for Zapeda moving forward.
Well, of course he's human. I mean, he's lost. He's gotten stopped before, but that shows character.
Oh,
That shows
no. I'm saying Zapeda.
Zapeda. Oh, okay. He's been human because look, when it comes to Mexican volume punchers, and here's the thing, I used to think Zapeda was a power puncher. I don't think that's the case no more. He's a volume guy that breaks guys down and he puts the right opponents in front of him that have been stopped before.
He's never been a one-punch knockout guy, right? Like
No,
every
yes.
one of his knockouts has been just a sheer volume. Maxie Hughes gets buried into punches. Same thing with Hesta. Like these guys that are quality kind of B-level guys have just been overwhelmed.
Yeah, so that's my point. And Farmer mentioned that in the fighter meeting. He goes, "Man, it's just all it's dumb volume. I know how to deal with tough Mexicans. I know how to deal with guys like that." He goes, I'm the accurate guy. I'm the bigger guy. He even said he was a stronger puncher. It was hard to believe, but now I believe it because once they got in the ring, he was the bigger fighter in there. He was a more muscular. He looked more filled out in his upper body. I think he took better punches than Zepeda as well. And you said that Zepeda's chinny. I'm not quite convinced that he's chinny, but I think he is vulnerable. I think he is vulnerable to the chin and to the body. And if you're dealing with a guy with speed and combinations that can light you up and with flurries, that's going to be a problem for Zapeda because you don't have to be a big puncher to put a 3-4 piece combo to keep him rattled and shaken up. Farmer's not one of those guys. He's a pot shotter. He's one of these slick southpaws that looks for the right shot, accurate, puncher. I think Zepeda's going to have problems with combination punches, explosive punchers, every single monster that it's in the lightweight division waiting for him. He's going to have a problem with every single
I don't
one.
want to get too far ahead in the lightweight division because I just want to look at one guy, and that's Shakur, right? Like Zapeda is now the interim champion, fully established 12-round interim champion for the WBC at 135. Why they need an interim champion, I don't know. Shakur Stevenson has been active. There's no need for an interim champion, but he has this interim belt, which puts Shakur as the only guy out there for Zepeda to force a fight against, because once he won that interim title, the other sanctioning bodies take him off their rankings. He's no longer number one in all the other rankings. So he's got to go and push for that Shakur Stevenson fight. And if you're Shakur Stevenson, I would think you'd welcome that fight too, right? Shakur wanted a Tank Davis fight. That's not going to happen. He wanted some other unification fights. Lomachenko was out there. That's not going to happen. Right now, William Zepeda is the biggest fight for Shakur Stevenson, and Shakur Stevenson sure is the biggest fight for William Zepeda. If that fight happened in September, let's just say, who would you favor in that matchup?
Well, listen, right now is the time to do it if you're William Zepeda, because I mean, this is a crazy statistic, but first of all, William Zepeda is a left-hander. He's converted, so his power hand is out front. You know, he's a orthodox fighter, but he's a natural left-hander. That's one. Two, five of his last six opponents, Zepeda has faced left-handers. So if he's gonna fight maybe the best southpaw in boxing as far as the slickest and the hardest to hit, the time is now. There's no other time that's gonna be better for William Zepeda to fight a southpaw than right now. He went 22 rounds with another slick former champion southpaw in Tevin-Farmer, and he's already faced these other southpaws as well. So this is the time to do it. Oscar De La Hoya's promoter wants it. His manager wants it. I think we want it. This is a fight that we want, because Shakur Stevenson, we know that he's a great boxer, but he hasn't proved to be a great fighter. You know, the difference, I always talk about the two. You know, Zepeda's going to force him to fight, like he forced Tevin-Farmer to fight. Farmer used to be a straight, slick Pernell Whitaker type boxer on the back foot, jabbing, kind of boring. Not anymore, because that's what happens to guys that are strict boxers. Once they hit in their mid-30s and their legs start going, they start planting their feet and they start believing in their strength a little bit more, and they become more exciting fighters. That's just the way it is. So Shakur's going to have to fight off Zepeda. He's not going to be able to run around the ring box around the ring like he likes doing. Zepeda's going to force him to fight.
Hey, Zepeda doesn't do that just to older fighters. Every fighter that gets in the ring with William Zepeda has to fight his style. You know, there's no way to stink out the joint against William Zepeda, not when the guy's willing to throw 100-ish punches per round. Just that simple. And I think Shakur's...
I knew he was the goods when he fought Hector Tanahara. Because I thought Tanahara had a high ceiling. I liked that kid. He had Robert Garcia in his corner. He was a great boxer, good movement. Didn't have much power, but he had everything else. And
he made Tanahara's corner quit.
He made him submit. And that's when I realized, whoa, this Mexican's the goods. He's for real. You know, he's scary. Anyone that throws 1,000 punches in a fight, but they're hard punches and they're uppercuts and right hooks. It's not just, regular. It's not like Ricky Hatton pressure. You know, Ricky Hatton's a great fighter, but it was, you knew what was coming. Left, right, body, left, right, maybe an uppercut, left, right. Zepeda breaks you down and he doesn't give you anywhere to hide. It's power jabs, right hooks, and then left uppercuts, and then the body shot.
Body shots. He's so consistent to the body. He
alternates that attack where it's scary. So that's why I was like, yeah, man, this guy's gonna be a problem, and he is.
Yeah. If Shakur's hands were 100% going into that fight, I would favor Shakur to win, because I think Shakur is an excellent counterpuncher, and I think Zepeda is vulnerable to those types of fighters. I just don't know, going into a fight against Zepeda in 2025, what the status of Shakur's hands are going to be. I mean, he's freshly removed from surgery on his right hand. We saw in his last fight, he hurt his left hand. Like, he's had these problems, these Floyd Mayweather-esque problems that have plagued him over the last few years. And you got to go into a fight with Zepeda at 100%. You can't go in with one of your best assets not available to you, because you're going to need everything going up against William Zepeda. I just hope they make that fight. It's Matchroom against Golden Boy. It's all under DAZN. You could conceivably do it in a Riyadh season card as well if you want to try to juice up the money in one of those events. It's got to happen in 2025. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is the next fight for both those guys. All right. In Las Vegas, Sergio, Mikaela Mayer picked up her second straight win over Sandy Ryan, defeating Ryan by unanimous decision. There was some controversy in the first fight between the two when Sandy had paint splashed on her just hours before the fight. No such controversy here, and no doubt who the winner was. Your thoughts on Mikaela Mayer's win?
This is probably the best I've seen her fight. Before I would see what made her special. I seen what made her an Olympian. She has height, she has reach, she has power, but at times she was a little bit clumsy. Maybe, I don't know if it was the weight, but She looked great at welterweight. She looked strong. The punches were crisp. The selection was good. The inside fighting was good. The outside, she was throwing this wide left hook I never seen her throw before, and it does the job because she's a tall fighter with long arms, and fighters aren't shorter fighters aren't expecting that wide punch around the guard, and that opens up jabs up the front as well. So I just thought that was her best performance, in my opinion. That was her best performance, and now I think she made a splash at the welterweight division because she's stronger, she looks better, she fights better. The punches sound like they're harder. I think this is going to be her division. I mean,
Yeah, I
she
think
has height for it. She has a height, wide shoulders. I remember when I met her when I was with you, I sized her up. I asked her to stand up. She's a tall, wide shoulder, strong, athletic woman. She's going to fill out nicely.
Yeah, I think you're right about the weight. I think welterweight is the right division for her. I mean, she spent the majority of her career up until this point as a 130 pounder. She's 5'9" and was squeezing down to 130 pounds. That had to have taken something out of a fighter, cutting that much weight and getting down when you have that type of frame. Now that she's up at welterweight, has had what, like 4 fights at welterweight. She has settled in really nicely in the division. This is a better version than the one we saw go over to the UK and fight Natasha Jonas. This is a better version of the one that we saw fighting in the first fight against Sandy Ryan. She is getting better in this weight class. And that's not something you often say about a fighter in their 30s, that they're getting better. But because she's in this weight class, I think she's got a chance to kind of start this whole new chapter in her career where she can become a player at this weight class and maybe one weight class up. I mean, she was going up against a woman in Sandy Ryan who, for the last 3 years, has been a welterweight, has never really fought below the 140-pound division. She is the naturally bigger fighter. And for most of this fight, Mikaela fought like the bigger fighter, leaned on Sandy Ryan, used her weight, used her size in this fight. I thought it was a brilliant performance, one of the best of Mikaela's career. And good for her for, kind of surviving the storm of the last few years. I mean, she's got the 2 losses on her resume.
They're close losses,
but they're really close losses, right? Like,
against 2 of the best. There's no shame in that. There is absolutely no shame in that. I think those losses made her better, as cliche as it sounds, because this is the fighter that I think beats everybody at 147. I'll be honest with you. She's going to be hard to beat, man. I think that this is her natural weight division, and she's going to fill it out nicely. Yeah. I mean, when a fighter's that tall and they're really forcing themselves to make 140 or 135, she came up from 130, so I just think it takes away from you. You think you have an advantage as a taller, bigger fighter, especially after you rehydrate, but you don't. You're leaving strength in the gym. You're leaving a lot of things in the gym. That didn't happen at welterweight. At welterweight, she looked like a legitimate threat, and she's going to be hard to beat at 147 pounds.
Let's talk about the competition at 147 pounds. Because it's really talking about one woman, and that is Lauren Price, who has the other 3 belts at 147. After the fight, Mikaela said she wanted to make that unification fight. Lauren Price was on Sky Sports saying she's all for it. It is the natural fight to make in the welterweight division. I just want to say this to Mikaela, to Top Rank, to her manager, George Ruiz. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's not enough financial upside in fighting Lauren Price right now. Lauren Price is a fantastic fighter. She is a former Olympic gold medalist, one of the most skilled fighters pound for pound in women's boxing today. Great footwork, great speed, a natural 147. She's brilliant, but she does not have a large fan base. She does not bring a lot of dollars with her, not the kind of dollars that someone like, Natasha Jonas brought when she fought Mikaela, that even Alicia Baumgartner brought when she fought Mikaela. There's not enough money in it right now. I don't believe that a unification fight is in the best interest of Mikaela at this point. I think someone like Lauren Price should go out and keep winning, take more high-profile fights in and around that weight class in the UK and keep building herself up so she can get to a level where it makes financial sense for both of them. So for Team Mayer, don't do it. And I'm not just sitting here saying don't do it, Sergio, for the sake of not doing it. There's a fight out there that makes all the sense in the world, and that's a matchup with Claressa Shields. Claressa Shields was at that fight this past weekend. She goes way back with Mikaela Mayer, decade plus with Mikaela to the amateur ranks, the 2016 U.S. Olympic team. They've known each other for a long time. Claressa Shields is the undisputed heavyweight champion who has been undisputed in 3 weight classes, including 154 pounds. Mikaela Mayer has said she can go up to 154 pounds. I don't care if you have to make up a belt at 154 for them to fight for. That's what you do. That's the biggest fight that can be made for Mikaela Mayer. That's the biggest fight that can be made for Claressa Shields. Claressa is also an outstanding fighter, but she is coming off a fight where she had to fight a 42-year-old with 5 professional fights for the undisputed heavyweight championship. That's a glaring example of someone that doesn't have great options. So Claressa should embrace dropping down to 154. Mikaela should say, you know what? I want to be undisputed at 147, but I'm going to go up 1 weight class first and make a big domestic fight. Think about it, Sergio. Whether you do that fight in Vegas, in Detroit, maybe even New York, Los Angeles, there's a lot of places you could put a Mayer Shields fight. 2 of the biggest U.S. stars in women's boxing going up against each other who have a history. That would be a phenomenal event. So if I'm Team Mayer, first thing I'm doing this week, I'm getting on the phone with Mark Taffet, with Dimitri Salita, and I'm saying, what's it going to take? Where do we find the money to make this fight happen? Undisputed's going to be out there. You can keep your belt at 47 if you move up to 54. But going like over to the UK to fight Lauren Price now is bad business. It's really bad business, and I hope they don't do it right away.
I have nothing to say because that was my answer. I never in a million years would have thought that you would have said, no, of course she needs to go for undisputed. She's not going to be ready. Lauren Price is 5'5". She could use her reach. I thought you were going to say something ridiculous here, but yes, you're 100% right. That's what you do. You cash in now, not cash out, because Mikaela could still, give Claressa a lot of problems, especially this new version, because they both have footwork. They're both really tall for their weight division, and they both
well, they're right around the same height. Like, Mikaela, Claressa, right around 5'1".
I would say Mikaela is actually taller, and I think Shields will rehydrate more as far as like mass and weight. But I think height and the real weight that you want as a fighter, I'm gonna favor Mikaela on that. I think she'll come into the fight rehydrated, looking athletically strong, and with the punches that she was throwing, she'll give issues to Shields. Shields has the better feet. I think she has the faster hands, and of course, she's a naturally bigger fighter. But no, I agree 100% because even if Mikaela Mayer comes up short, say they go to the decision, it's a great fight, comes up short, it's still going to break records. It's still going to give Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor a run for their money as far as like how big of a fight can be. And it's going to be
I don't know about that because Amanda and Katie are going to fight on Netflix, and I don't think anybody's got that kind of fire hose. So
yeah, but you're dealing with 2 Olympians, 2 medalists. You know how you can market that? You'll be writing stuff you'll be writing things on Sports Illustrated. They'll be on Sports Center. They'll be on ESPN. They'll be everywhere. These are 2 Americans. You got a African-American woman, gold medalist, and then you got another U.S. Olympian in Mikaela Mayer, who's from the complete different side of the world. So a Caucasian lady. That's how you make movies, man. That's how Sylvester Stallone became, so great, because he knew how to match up, the right faces, the right names, the right cultures, the right countries. That's the reason we're still talking about Rocky, and that's the fight that I think happens, man. It's good, and you're right about where it should be, either Vegas or New York. It has to be a big city where it's multicultural. I'm in for that. I didn't even think about that, but I'm in for that fight.
I don't know how you weaved a fake movie like Rocky into a real movie or a real fight situation, but well done by you there with the Sylvester Stallone reference. All right, on the undercard of Mayer against Ryan, we saw Brian Norman make the first defense of his 147-pound title, knocking out Derek Cuevas in the first round. Second loss for Cuevas, but the first time he's ever been knocked out in a fight. Norman's team, Sergio, came into that fight wanting their guy to make a statement. I think he did that. Did Brian Norman show you anything that, caught your attention in this fight?
I'm going to be dead honest with you. I only saw the Santillan fight, and I only saw the highlights of that fight because I thought Santillan was special after the beatdown he gave Alexis Rocha. So I thought, okay, well, let's see what this Brian Norman is, because even the name doesn't sound intimidating. Brian Norman Jr. sounds like an accountant or something. Oh my goodness, Chris Mannix. This dude's a beast. This guy's he's everything scary, man. His height, his reach, his length, his power. He takes a big shot. He's vulnerable. And the power, and my trainer always used to tell me, these are the most dangerous punchers, the ones that don't need to punch tight with their power. They can punch you with their arm open and still hurt you. That's exactly what Norman's doing. He's knocking dudes out at the end of the punch where it's not tight, like the technique's not there, where your biceps not contracting, and well, you can't see me, but he does it Roy Jones style where it's open and he can knock, and he's knocking guys out, and he's a vicious body puncher, and he's a mean-spirited dude. This dude's mean, man. Like the how he looks, how he stares at opponents, how he goes for the knockout, how he's beating up these guys and going for the knockout. And then I look into his resume, right? Because I'm thinking, man, this guy's scary. This dude has 14 first round knockouts in 29 fights. He's 24 years old. That right there sold me. That right there sold me. You cannot have that many first round knockouts and not be something special. This guy is special, man. Brian Norman Jr. is special.
Well, he certainly has burst onto the scene over the last year because when he went into that fight against Santillan, the interim WBO title was on the line for Santillan. That was a homecoming fight for Santillan. The expectation was that Santillan would win, he would keep his momentum going, and he would go on to become, that next challenger for Bud Crawford or another unification fight that was out there. Norman came in and upset the apple cart in a big way, showed that he was for real in that fight. I don't know if I learned anything from Norman against Derek Cuevas because, even though Cuevas had a glossy record, he wasn't very good. And, it turned out he couldn't take more than 2+ rounds of engaging with Norman. But Norman needed to get back in the ring. He was coming off an injury. And look, he did everything you possibly can in that situation. He got an early knockout and kept his momentum going as best he can. And now it's time, man. Like, Brian Norman is just 24 years old, but we need to see Brian Norman in a unification fight immediately. He's got good representation around him. Top Rank is his promoter. Adrian Clark, Jolene Mazzone, they're his managers. They're smart people, but they've got to find a way to steer him into a unification fight. There's a big one that we're going to be calling in a couple of weeks between Boots Ennis and Amanta Stanionis. They got to push hard for the winner of that fight. Mario Barrios right now is just kind of out there. I think Mario Barrios is kind of looking for the biggest payday he can probably get because he's sort of at the end of the line of his career. So maybe they're not looking to do a Brian Norman fight. But April 12th in Atlantic City, if I'm Brian Norman, I'm sitting ringside. Like, I'm going there and I'm making sure I'm visible. Hell, we'll put him on the air. I think I can speak for the DAZN production team in saying we put him on the air on that fight. And he's got to be in a position to call up the winner because, look, even though, and we'll get into this in a couple of weeks, I think it's a very competitive fight between Boots and Stanionis. It might be a 50-50 fight between these two guys. These are both very good welterweights. If Boots Ennis comes out with a win, he's going to be looking to unify quickly because if he doesn't get a unification fight quickly, he's gone. He's going up to 154 and chasing the dollar signs that are up there. Norman cannot let that happen. He cannot let an opportunity to unify against a unified champion go by him. He's got to be aggressive. He was on the show last week, Sergio, and I asked him, hey, man, see you in Atlantic City, right? And he's like, nah, I'm going to go on vacation. Big mistake. Big mistake. You have got to get your butt from Atlanta up to Jersey, sit ringside, watch that fight, talk about that fight, be about that fight, and when it's over, challenge the winner in the middle of the ring. That's what Brian Norman's got to do. I don't know if he's how competitive it would be. I mean, I don't know if he's ready for that type of fight against the Boots or a Stanionis, but that's got to be the fight he pushes for, Sergio. That's got to be the one.
He's ready because he has the size, he has the power, and he has a belt. So when, of course he's ready. Look, he's not as polished as Boots Ennis. Boots can, he's like Bruce Lee with boxing gloves. He's really polished. He's smart. He's tough. He has that Philly background, and he's not as technically sound. Norman is. He's not as technically sound as Stanionis as far as technique and how he goes about his game plan, how he strategically breaks down opponents. This dude's a little bit rough around the edges, a little bit raw, but that's what makes him dangerous. That's what makes him scarier. I think he has a bigger chip on his shoulder than both those fighters. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think he's a harder puncher than both Boots and Stanionis. he's a dangerous guy, man. I didn't really look into him until after the Santillan fight. I
Nobody
watched
did.
watch
Nobody did.
No, I know, but then I watched highlights, right? But when you told me we were going to talk about him, I went down his resume. That's when I was like, whoa, all these first round knockouts. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, man, this dude's and he's a vicious body puncher, man. That's another thing. Whenever you have these taller fighters that long arm punchers that can punch, like I said, out there, they don't have to be tight and concise. Uh, he's a vicious body puncher. He reminds me of a little bit of like a Paul Williams type, because he doesn't use his height and size and length and his advantages of being power puncher at the end. He likes getting on the inside and mixing it up. He's technically flawed. He gets hit, but he still goes for the knockout. That is television gold. But that's also scary for fighters that have a high ceiling, like Boots Ennis, who's a potential star, and Stanionis, who's a potential star if he beats Boots. So, yeah, man, I know you're gonna hate to hear it, but avoid Brian Norman at all costs for right now.
I don't know if anybody's avoiding Brian Norman. I think Brian Norman needs to get in the ring with one of these guys. He's not. I mean, you talk about his size. Like he's not that big. He's 5'8". Like
I think he's
Boots.
bigger than that. All right,
No, no, no,
I
no. I
studied
was
his. I
there.
think
I was there with him. He's 5'8". Boots is listed at 5'10". I think Boots is bigger. Look, he's a full-fledged welterweight. Like he's a strong guy, no doubt about that. But he doesn't have like, I mean, you bring up Paul Williams. Paul Williams was 6'6". Like that was a different type
No,
of size.
I'm talking about the way that he gives up his size and he wants to get on the
He's
inside.
aggressive. I agree with you that
Very
he
aggressive,
gets.
and he's flawed.
Yeah,
Williams didn't have good upper body movement. He would get hit a lot. That's what we're seeing with Norman. But that's what makes him so exciting to watch, and that's why he's getting these knockouts because he doesn't mind getting hit. They're looking for the knockout.
I agree with that. We'll see you in Atlantic City, Brian. If your management team is smart, and I know they are, they'll get you to Atlantic City for that fight weekend. Last thing, Sergio, Deontay Wilder is officially back. That's right. Wilder will return on June 27th against Tyrell Herndon, a 37-year-old journeyman. Sergio, this is presumably Wilder's first step towards getting back in the heavyweight mix. At 39 years old, do you think Deontay Wilder can land a significant fight?
Yes, because when you have that kind of power and you have that kind of name, and you're always going to be looking for the knockout, or you're going to get knocked out because that's what's been happening to Wilder lately. People are still going to tune in, but you need to match him up against another vulnerable fighter, against a dangerous heavyweight, another hard puncher. So, and there's a lot of names to pick from right now because the heavyweight division's hot. You've seen these big, tall giants get knocked off left and right. So match him up with another giant that's been knocked off and put him together and see what he still has. Because he's going to be 40 years old, Deontay Wilder. But when you have that kind of eraser, you can fight when you're 40 years old. He's not a mover. He's not a boxer. He doesn't bounce on his toes. He's not jabbing his way to victory. He's looking for that big right hand.
Mm.
That's one thing. And Wilder started boxing late. So he doesn't have, even though he's been knocked out pretty badly, he got knocked out three out of his last 5 fights. And they've been brutal fights. He started late. So that wear and tear is not there. And then he got a lot of knockouts early in his career. So he wasn't going a lot of rounds and having a lot of taxing his body. So yeah, I think he still has at least one more big fight, big name left. And with that power, I think he can still maybe even win.
Well, this Herndon fight is a gimme. Herndon has lost 5 times. In 4 of those fights, he's been knocked out. It was like a year ago. He got stopped by who's the top ranked heavyweight prospect? I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's been stopped early in his fights. So this is a get back to his winning ways fight for Deontay Wilder. And now the question is like, what's the fight that he will be targeting? Well, to me, it's not about winning a heavyweight championship again. To me, it's about landing a fight with Anthony Joshua. Like the only reason for Deontay Wilder to still be in boxing is to make that Joshua fight happen. Like you're not going to put Wilder back in with Tyson Fury. Like Alexander Usyk gets nothing out of fighting Deontay Wilder. You're not trying to get your get back against Joe Joyce or Zhang Zhang or any of the guys
No,
that have beaten him
no.
in recent years. He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. In 3 of them, he has been knocked out. So this is all about getting to one fight, and that's Anthony Joshua. And I do think there is a pathway to that, Sergio. Like I don't know where AJ goes right now.
Let me
Like
let
the
me just
reason
let me just pause you right there real quick. Would
stop
you
making
rather,
the timeout signal. Why are you doing a referee
because I
timeout?
want you to shut up. Why? Would you, let me just ask you real quick. Would you rather watch Tyson Fury and AJ at Wembley, or would you rather watch AJ and Deontay Wilder in Las Vegas somewhere?
I'd rather watch Fury AJ
I
at
agree. So give me another name, and I got
no,
one.
well, you're assuming that Fury comes out of retirement and this fight with AJ happens. At this point, it hasn't, right? At this point, Fury is still a retired fighter, and there are a lot of people in boxing telling him to stay retired. So for the moment, he is retired. And for the moment, Anthony Joshua has no one to fight. He's not going to fight Daniel Dubois. He could have done that. He doesn't want to do it again. He doesn't want to get back in there with him. Like, there's nobody out there on the landscape. Like, the reason the Jake Paul gossip got as far as it did is because we're kind of looking around going, well, AJ is not going to fight any of these other top heavyweights. He's not going to fight Usyk again or Dubois, or he's not going to fight Zhang or Joe Parker. Why not fight Jake Paul and collect a paycheck and get what probably would be a quick knockout?
No, no.
He's just hanging out there, Sergio. So if Deontay Wilder does what he's supposed to do against Tyrell Herndon, which he should. The guy I was thinking about was Richard Torres Jr. My bad. Sorry, Richard. Torres knocked him out in 2023 in the second round of a 6-round fight. So this is not going to go very long against Deontay Wilder. If he looks spectacular, gets a first-round knockout, I promise you, Eddie Hearn's going to be on the phone with Shelly Finkel, with Jay Deese, with all the people in Wilder's team trying to make a fight between AJ and Wilder happen. I think the only question is, Sergio, where would it be? Like, would you do Wilder and AJ in the UK? Or if you're AJ, would you rather come back to the US one more time? Because you're 0-1 on US soil. Would you rather come back to New York, fight Wilder at Madison Square Garden, the site of the most gut-wrenching loss of your career against Andy Ruiz, and do it there? Wilder's fought in New York a bunch, mostly at Barclays Center, but he's fought in New York. That would be a great event at MSG. So that to me is the only question. If Wilder comes through this thing, great. And if by June 28th, AJ does not have an opponent lined up, which, again, I don't know who it would be, I think we're going to get Wilder against AJ in 2025. I really believe that.
You think Anthony Joshua wants to come back to MSG and hear Anthony Joshua is a composed and ferocious finisher?
It's a great line.
Watch this.
Great line.
I got a name for you, man. It makes total sense because both these guys are going to be 40 by this year, or are 40. They both have a lot of miles. They've both been stopped. Derek Chisora, man. Derek Chisora's coming off some wins. Give Derek Chisora that fight.
Two reasons it won't happen. Number one, like, Chisora is represented by Joshua's management team. Like, Joshua owns that management company. They're good friends. It's not going to happen. Second, you obviously don't follow much of the news because Chisora is now the number one contender for Daniel Dubois' heavyweight title. So it's more likely than not that we get Chisora against Dubois this summer, probably at Wembley.
I got another name for you then.
All right.
How
You're
about
just going to throw names at me for the next 2 minutes?
Deontay Wilder versus Martin Bakole. There you go.
Why would Deontay Wilder do that? What is the upside for Deontay Wilder?
These guys have already got knocked out. They're both big punchers. People are going to want to watch. They're both susceptible, suspect, all that. Yeah, and it'll sell.
There's no. You think Deontay Wilder, Martin Bakole sells where? Where does
anywhere,
that sell?
anywhere. Oh, come on, man. Those are two big names, two huge names.
You think Bacole's a huge name? What were you drinking in Cancun? You think Martin Bakole is a big name? Come on. Martin Bakole is great for the purists,
if they fight in
right?
the Congo, he's not a big name. Like
in the Congo, okay, but you're not going to do the fight in the Congo.
That was the original plan for Bakole to fight in Africa.
There's always this stuff. There's always talk about fighting in Africa. Unless you're talking about Foreman against Ali, it rarely actually happens doing the fight. There's just not enough money in those live gates. No, Bakole versus Wilder makes no sense. The only fight for Deontay Wilder that makes any sense is this finally happening matchup against Anthony Joshua. It's been like, what, 8-9 years that we've been talking about Wilder against Joshua. They are both on the back end of their careers. They are both vulnerable, and they're both still names. I guarantee you, Sergio, Eddie Hearn, if he doesn't have a fight lined up for AJ, June 28th, he is calling Wilder's team and getting this thing locked down. The only question is, where would it be? That's it. It's happening if AJ doesn't set something up before then.
And it'll still be just as popular, man. I mean, we talk about nostalgia. We talk about, when you have a name, you have power, you have fans that are always going to follow you no matter what. Those are two guys, two Olympians that have two completely different fan bases. They're gonna have their fans show up to watch their last hurrah. So wherever it's gonna be a sellout. It'll be a huge success, and it'll do great numbers on pay-per-view. That's the beauty of the sport. And the winner of that is going to have another big payday with another big name. That's also the beauty of the sport.
Martin Bacoli is a big name. I cannot believe Wilder versus Bacoli is like the Mora versus Vera of the heavyweight division right there. That's
Hey man, take that fight into the Congo or somewhere in Africa and he'll sell.
I don't disagree with it. Like any Bacoli goes to Congo and has a
Make
fight
it a
there, it'll
Riyadh
probably sell
season.
out.
Maybe,
The question,
maybe,
Sergio, how much is a live gate in the Congo? How much do you get to fight
forget
there?
the gate. You know that Riyadh
Forget
season
the
and,
gate.
and, and his Excellency Turki Al Sheikh is not worried about gates and money
If he
right now.
puts
He's
it
worried about
on,
the
sure.
biggest fights. And you know what else he's looking at? And fighting in landmarks in Alcatraz and the pyramids and wherever. That's going to be one right there. And I'll tell you one thing: if it does happen in the Congo, I know the name for it.
Oh God.
The Heart of Darkness,
No,
something along those lines, like
that's not
Joseph
a good
Conrad.
name.
Come on, that's a
It's
good
not
book.
a good name. You should tell Turkey that your backyard is a historical landmark for all the battles you had there.
Yeah, barbecue boxing. Your Excellency, Google Sergio Mora barbecue boxing.